Welcome to the Awakening Exchange podcast, hosted by Stephen Matthew Clark. Join us as we explore stories of transformation, growth, and redemption within the justice system. Through insightful conversations with experts and individuals who have overcome adversity, we'll uncover the potential for change and the power of education, programming, and support. Get ready to dive into a world of second chances and inspiring journeys. This is the Awakening Exchange podcast, transforming from the inside out.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's good to see everybody today, and thank you for being here. As you all know, today is a very special day as I will be interviewing my dear friend, Dr. Nyman. And what is so special about this is Dr. Nyman is actually on a boat right now in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, traveling the world on a sailboat. Dr. Nyman, welcome, my dear friend.
Hey, thank you, Stephen. So good to see you again.
It's so good for you to be here. So grateful. So grateful. How are things unfolding since we last talked? How are things coming? Where are you at right now in the world?
Well, I think we're pretty much right between Cape Verde on the African side of the Atlantic and Grenada on the Caribbean or American side of the Atlantic. We have about, I think it is actually 1,100 nautical miles left, which, well, a tiny bit more American miles and about 2,000 kilometers from Grenada. Yeah, we're midway.
Incredible.
And things have, we started to get a pace here, falling into routines, and I think we're relaxing more and more into it. So it actually feels better today than a few days ago even.
It's amazing.
It's wonderful to be out here.
Well, it's amazing to be here with you, by the way. I think what's so unique is I'm in my prison cell right now in the state of Maine. And having this ability to have a friendship with you, having this ability to do this podcast with you while you're traveling the world on a sailboat, it's extraordinary for me, my brother. So I'm grateful for the experience. I just want to say thank you for sharing it with me, and thank you for sharing it with all the fans of the Awakening Exchange. It's a blessing. Question, the clouds almost look like you could reach up and grab them. They're so close to you.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
It's so amazing. Yeah, absolutely
So,
amazing.
yeah.
Anything before we get into some of the stuff we're going to talk about? Anything like in the ocean that's really kind of stood out to you? Been kind of freaky? Has there been any experiences like that thus far?
You know, the ocean and the winds have been very, very kind to us so far. So we have had no freaky, scary moments at all. We had this beautiful experience of seeing a sailing ship, a larger vessel, in the horizon yesterday morning. It was, I think, 7 nautical miles away when we first could see it. You know, it was very, very difficult to see it, but it's rather big. And throughout the day, we got closer and closer, and we ended up being maybe half a mile away or less, which is very close, relatively close, you know.
Absolutely,
and it was that was a nice experience. Just they were going on our routes, we were just, you know, our paths were crossing, but it was a interesting experience to meet somebody like a vessel so far out. And I also noticed that after having watched them for a while and admired the beautiful ship, I was longing for the emptiness again. It's so peaceful to not see anything else but waves and skies and the clouds and some birds here and there and flying fishes. It's very kind of tranquilizing.
Yeah, absolutely and positively incredible, my dear friend. Absolutely and positively incredible. I was just curious in the nature, like I've heard stories about people passing like big containers that have fallen off ships, or they've seen other really unique things like floating in the ocean in the middle of nowhere. I'm just curious if any of those experiences had occurred for you. You never know,
No,
right?
but we had a visitor actually. A bird, which is not a seabird, came visited us yesterday, and it stayed overnight, and it spent
Amazing.
most of the day here on the boat, and made a try to. I don't know. It's so weird that it's so far out. It shouldn't be here, and it can't even survive on on the water. Can't swim. Yeah, it was here for a while. It got closer and closer to us, and got more and more um, friendly or less scared of us. But no, it took off a couple of hours ago, and I haven't seen it since. So I guess it's on its way to another ship, or maybe heading for a land in the
Amazing. Yeah,
Caribbean. Yeah, it was really beautiful.
that is beautiful. Absolutely. Maybe we'll come back and visit again. Maybe it's found a place to
Yeah, we'll
get its
see.
respite. Yeah.
Yep.
So far, I think what would be interesting to talk a little bit about is one of the things that brought you and I together in our friendship is the ability to have conversations in relationship to our lives, in relationship to moving forward, becoming better men in this world. And I think the other thing is the things that we've done to work on ourselves as individuals and human beings. I think one interesting thing that we've talked about in the past is our values and how those values show up for us in our life. Would you like to talk maybe a little bit about values and what that means to you?
Yeah. Well, I actually feel that I, or actually think that I would like to investigate more into values still. What it means to me and what my core values are, because they can serve as navigation aids. We were talking about it in one of my men's group last week, and it was suggested that we were having a chat conversation going on for a while earlier on. Anyways, somebody suggested that when something feels off, when I feel like I'm getting angry or sad, or if something shows up in my emotional life that is seemingly disturbing for me, it can be a sign of me not living according to my values, and that can be a way of finding out what my values really are. So yeah, I looked a little bit at it, but I would like to do some more work around that.
Nice. I like when you said if you have that certain feeling that shows up for you, whether it's in the heart or the gut, and you know something's off alignment, it could be because your values are off alignment. At the same time, I love the fact that we're having this conversation for a multitude of reasons. Being in prison, it's so important to have values in place and to have a direction, right? You're on a sailboat, you have a direction from point A to point B. Without values, your behaviors can be all over the place. But when you have, for me in my personal life, when my values are strong, when I have something that I'm working for, when I have something that I'm shooting towards, and something that I'm living up to, it doesn't allow me to sway too much. And really, what I mean by that is if things are happening in my life, let's say something really happens that upsets me or triggers me or makes me really frustrated, what I do is I lean into my values. I observe whatever that event is that happened. I just look at it rather than fusing to it, like we have talked about in the past, rather than buying into that particular event. I stick to the values that I have in my life, and that allows me to stay my course and stay forward. And that course is getting the heck out of this place, man, so I can get on a sailboat with you one day, right? Have you noticed? Have you noticed in your life any situations that have occurred that could have gone like they really could have gone sideways quick. But because your values are in place, you were able to stay your course.
Oh yeah, so many times.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I was thinking about it when you were talking about what it can mean to you, or how you can, your values can help you navigate your everyday life. For example, if I have someone close to me that triggers me suddenly, like, and I start feeling like angry or irritated, and I can notice myself having judgmental thoughts about this person, I can, with awareness, if I have the awareness in the moment to notice what's going on inside of me, step back and kind of rest, or like like rest in my value, or like remind myself of values of compassion, which is one of my core values, and also kindness can be a core value. It's one of my core values, and just remind myself of that, and ask myself what those values can bring here, what they could, if I act from those values, where that would take me. And of course, the situation gets disrupted or interrupted by this in a very positive way. Then, yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love the notion of kindness and compassion as well. You're on a sailboat traveling across the world with other men, right? How many men are on that boat? 2 or 3?
We're 3 men and 1 woman.
3 men and 1 woman. So you're in pretty
Yeah.
tight quarters on the boat, right?
Yeah.
So having values like kindness, compassion, understanding are so important, especially being in those tight quarters. Otherwise, if you didn't have your values in place, it could be pretty easy to be upset, right, with people?
Yeah, I think it's it would be easy to be upset, but also to get lost in the upsetness. I think it's never a problem to get upset. It's never a problem to be triggered if we can handle it. And I think one thing never to get triggered. I think it's an ambition that is bound to fail. But having tools to deal with the triggerness that change the whole picture. So yeah, certainly those values can be helpful, and also values like, for example, responsibility, personal responsibility, and whatever, honesty. There are many values that can be helpful in both situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Honesty, integrity, keeping everything on the forefront, being completely honest about what's happening and what's showing up for you. And it reminds me of living in prison. In prison, we're confined in a 6x8 cell with a toilet, right, and a sink. And if you don't have strong values in that situation, things can really go south quickly with somebody that you're living with, especially if you two do not jive with each other. And it just reminds me of like patience too. Patience is a really important value, right?
Yeah, working on that one.
I'm with you, my dear friend. What I value is more than I ever have in my entire life, my friend, is freedom. And I'm not talking just about mental freedom, because I think I've found and achieved a sense of mental freedom, but actually having physical freedom and respecting it, actually really valuing it, because you're in a situation right now that, man, I would probably cut my pinky off from to be in that situation. I'm not sure if I'd really cut my pinky off, but a lot of people that have their freedom,
Yeah,
a lot of people that, I was going to say, a lot of people that have their freedom, I don't believe actually have that sense of value that maybe you have or many other people have. People take it for granted. They really do. Go ahead, Par. I think we broke up for a second.
Yeah. I think we, in general, like we take a lot for granted. Say again. I think you're frozen for me, right?
No, just keep going if you can. We're a little bit frozen, but just keep speaking.
Can you hear me, Steven?
I can hear you. Yep. I can hear you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're having just a little bit of a glitch. Are you okay?
Yeah, maybe your coverage is not so good in prison.
That might be the truth.
It's probably on my mid-Atlantic, but yeah.
Go ahead, Par. What were you saying about? Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can remember, but you gave me some credit for. I think you gave me some credit for not taking things for granted, because I think you know me, and I don't take things for granted. I do as well. I also take things for granted. I do have. Maybe it's a value actually. One of my core values to not to do that. Be grateful instead, and yeah, just being present to what is going on. And if we're present enough, it's like nothing is taken for granted. And also, also like having you as my friend also gives perspective, of course. And it might also actually help me value the freedom that I have. And freedom is very important for me, and I appreciate it very, very much. And it's not just about not being in prison, but it's also like having the health, having the financial situation that can make this possible, and whatever it is. I'm just incredibly privileged and fortunate to be born where I was born and under those circumstances, and having had the opportunity to create this life. It's an amazing gift that it's an amazing gift.
Yeah, and Par, I got to say this to you, Dr. P. I'm in a situation right now. I'm podcasting with you in my prison cell, so I don't take that lightly. I really have a lot of gratitude for our commissioner and our warden allowing this to take place, and I really value that trust that I've been given to do these things. So you think of, I just have a question for you. I've been doing this lately with everybody I've been talking to, and this is kind of interesting. If you think about Nike, and maybe everybody that's listening in right now, or everybody that does listen, when you think of Nike, what do you think of?
Just do it.
Just do it. What else do you think of?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Well, no, I think of running. I think of athleticism. I think of health. That's my associations to Nike, and I feel a sense of joy. I know when I was a kid, I had this. Maybe I got a pair of Nikes, or I wanted a pair because they were so nice. I can't remember, but it's really, they were just so good, and just have positive feeling about Nike.
Nike.
Why do you ask that?
Well, the reason I ask you that is the same thing I want to ask you now. When you think of prison, what do you think of? If you didn't know me, if you thought of prison, what would you think of?
Frustration. Well, what I think of, the feeling that came up was actually frustration. But what I'm thinking is, that there's so much potential for growth. There's so much potential for healing, and there's so much we could do with the prison system throughout the world, of course. I think in Sweden we have been more progressive than in the US. So, but I think I know more about the US perhaps than about Sweden. And Yeah, I'm thinking about the unexplored potential in the people that are there. And I think it's important that we use people and find ways of supporting people to reach their potential wherever they are, even if they're in prison, or even more there actually, because people in prison might be further away from reaching their potential, since they are in jail, meaning that it's a bit more difficult to do that in prison, but it's also can be a sign of having, derailed from their true mission, and got themselves in a situation where they ended up in prison.
Thank you so much for answering that. I've been asking. That's the first time I've heard that answer, and it tells me about your character and who you are as a person and your friend. So most people say they think of concrete, they think of steel, they think of horrific things that have happened in the past, they think of violence, they think of suffering. So that's the first time I've heard that answer. And the reason why that's so important is many people, just like Nike, they're conditioned. Their neural pathways in their brain are telling them that prison is violence, prison is crime, prison is suffering, prison is no good. And really what it does is it leads to judgment. People end up getting a judgment of people that are in prison. That judgment unfortunately leads to stigma. Think of this for a second. So people out there, they watch these prison movies. They think prison is all about violence. It's about somebody getting stabbed, somebody getting raped. I thought that by watching Shawshank Redemption. In fact, that fueled some of the choices why I'm here today. Absolutely and positively fueled my panicking and fueled some of the choice making that I made. So many other people out there feel that same way. They think prison, they have this narrative in their mind that causes a judgment that leads to a stigma. The problem with that part is that stigma leads to prejudice. There's an absolute prejudice that takes place. And when we're prejudiced over and over and over again, the real reality and the real challenge with that prejudice leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy. And what that means is people in prison start seeing themselves as that stigma. They don't believe that they can move forward. And then they're up against guards, they're up against administrators that don't want to see us succeed. They want to hold that power over you. And it's so true, it's so nasty. They want to hold power over you and they want to make sure they're in control. Because I don't want to get into stories because it's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to love the system, not fight it. But the reality and the truth is this: that prejudice that happens, that prejudice that goes on all the time, that leads to a self-fulfilled prophecy where people in prison start believing that narrative about themselves. Does that make sense? So just do it. But the reason why I asked that question is because that social conditioning, it's pretty much a social label theory where society puts labels on things, people start believing that label, and that the labels that people are putting on things are pretty much coming from the movies. But what you said, my brother, and I'll let you jump in, is if we started believing in people's potential in prison and we started believing that they're better than the worst choice they've ever made, the sky's the limit and they could start succeeding and have friendships like this.
Yeah, it's I think my belief in people seems to be so deeply ingrained in some way, so I can't not think about people that way, that they're good and that there's potential. but yeah, you're right. Of course, that needs to be there, and once that mindset is there, you can just do it. Um, yeah, and I just want to say that I think I agree with you about the stigma, and I agree with you about uh, about self-fulfilling prophecies. Because whenever I have an expectation in someone, whether it's a kind of positive expectation or a negative expectation, that expect I will project that on the person that I'm meeting, and it will affect that person, how that person acts, and that's been scientifically proven as well for both individuals and groups of people. And I think it's important to be aware of that. Yeah, that's there is so much there to talk about, but that's I'm happy that I'm glad that you said that, and I agree with you, and it's super important.
Yeah, it's so important. I think we need to. I think I sincerely, I don't know what it is. I got moved by this the other day because I started thinking. I'm like, man, we're so conditioned. We've had this sense. Why aren't we all believing
You
like
fall
a
away.
person?
You fell away a little.
Okay, I think it's just your thing. I just want to say it again. I think we're so conditioned as a society. People get out of prison, they're not welcomed into a job. They're not welcomed into a place to live. They're looked at like the worst thing they've ever done. They're looked at like they can't rehabilitate and they can't be better. But all that is judgment of society on people. And that's a narrative that we have to stop. And I think that, Dr. P, I think we do it. I think we change that narrative by doing things like this. We show people in society that we are better than the worst
Yes, I think
choice.
this is one of yeah,
We start building
definitely,
opportunities. We start
definitely,
educating people in
and
prison. We start employing them, right?
definitely. Although I must object a little bit to, I'm not entirely sure if I remember right what you were saying about people getting out of prison and not getting a job. That it's, um I mean, the vicious circle needs to be broken, and it's up to all of us, including the former prisoner, to break that circle. So it's not like somebody out of out of it's nobody but the prisoner, the ex-prisoner himself, that creates his reality. Uh, but of course, he or her is influenced from other people. But I think super important to we're all responsible. I'm responsible for my life, and no one else. At the same time, we are responsible for each other as well. I want to believe that, because we do affect other people. So I want to
So
hold both perspectives.
that's the comment somebody just put in, by the way, Dr. P. They put in, I'd like to offer that we could benefit from a lesson from the Nordics to move from a me culture to a we culture. And that's absolutely and positively the truth. We're only as strong as the weakest person in our society, in our community. And it's crazy, we walk by, we think of folks that are homeless on the streets, we walk over them or walk by them. But ultimately, that person, I'm not saying that's my sole responsibility, it's a collaborative responsibility to lift people up and love people. And you're absolutely right, whoever put that in the chat, and thank you so much for that. We really would benefit, and I think that's one of the things Maine is working on doing. We're just trying to figure it out because it's not easy and it doesn't happen overnight. How do we turn more into a we culture? And the thing, we're up against those words like jealousy, envy, anger, fear. I think fear is the biggest one. People are afraid to do things that are outside the norm. And I get a hold, this right here, this friendship is outside the norm. What Commissioner Liberty is doing in the state of Maine is outside the norm. But the truth and the reality is the work that he has done up here, it's opening doors that I would never imagine. And Dr. P, I want to share this with you. I was just on a call on Saturday night we had an awakening event, and Dr. Mike Amos from Life University stayed, and we talked for a little bit. They're building a psychology department at Life University, and Dr. Amos asked me how I would like to build the psychology department with him. And I said, man, I'd love to do that. So I'm going to apply for Life University. I'm going to apply as if I was working at the university. And we're going to see. I'm going to put that forward in my argument to try to let me out of this place, my friend.
I got goosebumps on the inside here.
Yeah.
Hearing that. Yeah, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, it'd be amazing.
I'm curious. We're talking about values. I was curious. I was thinking. I'm wondering what the commissioner's values are. What does his core values look like?
Yeah, I think we should get him on a call. Maybe we'll try to get him on a call next Sunday and ask him. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, definitely.
No, that really would be cool. I'm interested. I think his justice, integrity, honesty, I think equality. I think restorative justice. I see a bunch of values in him and the warden both that I wish every warden and commissioner in the world would have for their prisons and prisoners, right? That's a good question, though. I think sense of humor is important too, right?
No, I think it's completely useless. I would hate to have that as a core value.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I just went to a talk with Marnie yesterday, and there was a gentleman. He was a monk. He's working right now. He's written all these books. I don't have his name. He's famous, and of course I don't know his name. But he's written all these books on health and eating, and his value is sharing with the world the benefit of eating healthy foods and not killing, doing what we're doing to our animals. And he went to a cabin in the woods. He had to do 111, what is it called? Protestations?
Prostrations.
Prostrations. He had to do 111,000 prostrations. He couldn't leave until they were done. And he didn't talk to anybody until they were done. Isn't that incredible? Oh my goodness gracious. I thought about it. I'm like, I wonder if I could do that in my prison cell for just a couple months. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's some serious commitment, number one. But number two, holy Moses, you really need the value of being a monk, I guess, if that's something that you want to do, right?
I think you can do 110,000 prostrations without being a monk, being an everyday person. I think it requires maybe a core value of devotion.
That's a big freaking value, brother. 111,000 prostrations before I talk to anybody, before I leave. I'm just staying in this room. That is some devotion, my dear friend. Holy Moses.
Yeah.
How do you
being
think?
Serious about changing yourself and doing good for others?
That's right.
I think that you need to have that to do that kind of thing.
How do you feel like a mentorship program like what you and I have built? How do you feel like a mentorship program for men and women in prison would benefit men and women in prison if they teamed up and they had people? If they had friendships like this, how do you think that would help heal the prison system?
Well, we've been talking about not this particular idea before, you and I, but I feel there's potential in finding ways of having these two worlds to meet. And I mean, friendship, we formed our friendship in quite an informal way. I think there are other ways. Like I'm involved in men's work, working with men's groups. And what I find there is we establish very healthy and positive relationships, which can be very, very supportive and help us, keeping us on track, keeping us sane and like good individuals with the help of others. And I think friendship also can, another kind of more individualized friendship many times come out of those groups. But whether it does or not, the meeting is important, and the mentorship that can happen is also important. So I think there's something there. Then if it's supposed to be friendship or something else, I don't know what will come out of a thing like that. But I think it's a good idea that you talk about.
Yeah, I think individuals.
I don't know how it is for other people. I don't know how many on the outs. I don't know how many people on the outside would be interested. I know from my own experience that I tend to have a little bit different point of view and interest than others. We're all unique, but I tend not to have follow the mainstream. Although there might be probably many people out there that would be interested to join such a venture.
Yeah, I'm sure you're absolutely right. Not everybody out there would want to be involved with something like this, but I love the notion of versus formulating judgments of people based on something that we've seen. Formulate that judgment of people by your own experience. Go have your own experience with it. And that's the problem, I think, a lot in today's world. People are so quick to judge other people without having any experience or any firsthand knowledge. It's based on somebody telling secondhand knowledge. And I think we'd be better off in society if people would start having that experience themselves, and they would have values based on their lived experiences, not based on something they've heard or seen in movies, right? So when you ask somebody what they thought of prison, I love the answer that you gave. I've never heard that, and I've asked probably 15 to 20 people that question. I just asked it. I taught. I was asked to go up and be a speaker at McMaster University, so I just went up and taught a class and answered some questions out there about prison and the awakening. And I asked that class those questions, and it's funny. You have people that are studying social justice and social change, and that wasn't even in their consciousness. That wasn't even in their thought process. So it's amazing to think. I love that. It's like when you think of prisons, what do you think of? I think of people with opportunities. That'd be amazing.
Hey, I have another idea. There are so many people training to be coaches, and why not involve them in prisons, like coaching prisoners. I don't know. It's as I said, there's just so much potential, and I can't. You said before something like, as I remember it, that people inside of prisons also have a tendency to be stuck in the idea of themselves and how bad it is, and it's in a negative thought pattern. But there are also people like you, also people that are ready to make a change if they get the chance, if somebody sees them and gives them an opportunity. And
that's right.
Yeah, I mean the potential is, potential. It's like in the physics we talk about potential. So if we move something, like if we lift something up that had a certain weight, its potential increases. So or if there is a tension, if there is a voltage difference, there's a potential moving things. So So if you're like at the bottom, like if you have, I mean, being in prison is kind of extreme. It's like, so what I'm seeing is so much potential, like a spring, a coil that is pressed, you know, like, oh, there's so much energy, there's so much, it can just be so much better. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting group of people, you know. There's so much to gain, so enormously much to gain.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I would say it's such an incredible thought just to think about what you were saying, like we're suppressed energy, and there's so much room for people to actually make changes and to expand that energy. And that's what I think is important, is building social, human, and financial capital, right? The ability to build social, human, and financial capital while we're in. And what a great way to do that, having a mentor and having people that love and care about you. That's actually what I'm writing about. I just wrote a paper par, and it's on the benefits of using technology for spirituality, for people to be able, in prison, to be able to use technology to do yoga or go to church or pray with other people or to do meditation with other people or to learn heart math with other people. And I think that's so important for a multitude of reasons, so people can build that capital in their lives, and they have that ability and they have that experience. So you leave here, this is the other thing I would say to that too, is you leave here, and when you leave here, you're not looked at like, you have people that accept you and welcome you home. You're not coming out with not knowing anybody in unfamiliar territory, like you're on the ocean. Imagine being out there without anybody, all by yourself. It's easier when you do it with other people. So sometimes it's more peaceful if you do it by yourself. But to get to where you need to be, what do they say? You want to get there fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, you have to go with people.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, I mean, if I was properly prepared, I would enjoy the journey,
Yeah.
you know, but I need to be properly prepared. And, you know, how do you prepare? I don't know. It,
It's like a cowboy. It's like a cowboy on a.
this is so different because on the sea, if I chose to go out on the sea on my own, it would be because I would like to have that experience.
That's right.
I think very few people would like to have this experience of being alone in a society. Period.
That's right. Loneliness
We
is
need
worse
people
than
around
smoking a
us.
pack of cigarettes a day, my friend. We know that. The science is showing us that. Loneliness is a killer. It really is a killer. Isolation is horrible for somebody's mental health and well-being. Is it good for a short period of time? Maybe. But I think long term, especially people that are craving human love, and people are all craving love and attention. Most people do. They crave connection. We're all built to connect with each other. So maybe it's not everybody. I'm not trying to say that about everybody, but I think a lot of people in prison, what I see is they're craving to have relationships. They're craving to be around people. And they don't get that, and it
Yeah.
affects their mental health. It turns them into a cowboy on a giraffe.
We are proud.
So, Steven, what made your toolbox of stunts just keep growing? So, what in Stephen Matthews made him choose path? I mean, once you were inside jail, prison, what made you take this path? Because your path is quite unique. I mean, there are other prisoners that are getting like some level of trust they can develop it, but I think this is quite unique what you have been given, and there's a reason. What in you made this possible? What made you what to use? What mindset? What you know? I mean, you're very grateful for all the support you've gotten, but it's also about the individual, and in this case, about Stephen Matthew Clark. What about that?
I think what was a catalyst for my change, my friend, is the forgiveness that I was given. My first off, I what happened in my situation, it wasn't a pre-planned, premeditated thing where I wanted to hurt somebody. That's not my case. My case is it was a sudden thing that happened. It was an instantaneous thing that happened, and nothing that was thought out or something that was deviantly like a lot of thought went into it. It was something that happened suddenly because I was scared. So when I got here, I think there was a lot on there was a heavy weight on my consciousness for what had happened and the way I responded to it. I knew in my heart, in my mind, in my heart, and in my gut that I needed to take responsibility for those choices. I knew that, I saw what I put my family through. I saw what I put my friend's family through, the fellow that lost his life. And I knew I had to go to any lengths to make things right. And the only way that I could make things right is by doing what is right for me, like getting myself on the right path and doing the next right thing. Now, have I always been up to like if 0 was doing awful and 10 was doing perfect? Am I always operating up around the 10? I'd like to think I'm at least always at a 7 and always around a 7, and maybe once in a while I come down to like a 5. Where it's like, I have my moments, but I don't cross that line. And if I hit the 5, it's like, it's something that I'm learning about myself still, and then I just rebound back from it. But it was a deep intrinsic motivation, and that was based on, I got forgiveness. I mean, that my friend that lost his life, his mom forgave me. And her forgiving me and her giving me that love and that kindness, that shifted something inside of me in my heart. So, yeah. And I just want to do good. I don't want to hurt people. I want to help people. I don't want to see people suffering. I don't want to see people in a bad place. I want to see people in a good place. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
that was. I guess
spread
that was
love, bro.
present. Yeah, I guess that was. I know that with you. I mean, but I've only known you for so long, so and those traits have been present all the way. But I don't know you from the time before you got to
Yeah, we
got to prison.
right.
It sounds.
Well, that's the thing.
I don't know.
Do you
It
want
sounds to
to?
me like those values were. Could you? Is it possible that you actually had those values even before prison? That you didn't manage to live up to them, live according to your values?
I think I had the values prior to coming into prison, but I think I didn't. I was misguided, and I wasn't. I think my conditioning growing up. I think really what had happened is my conditioning growing up and the way I was brought up. I think that many of those were missing. I didn't have the right mentorship and the right friends in my life. I had all these people that where I always like ended up around people that led me astray, if that makes sense. So, and I made those choices too. I have to stand behind, I own those choices. I made some horrible choices in my life. But those choices, I think, were I think a lot of my choice making it was a buildup. It wasn't just something happened over, it wasn't just this one thing. There was a buildup over my life there. And that buildup, I think the values were always inside of me. I just didn't know really how. I didn't have the modeling. I didn't have the right modeling in place to actually be able to live up to that. So, and
You
then
told me.
I'll just say this: it's like, yeah,
I mean,
the game.
you said in the beginning of the call, as far as I remember, that if we don't have our values in place, we're kind of all over the place. This is my words on what you say, my interpretation. And it's will be difficult for us to act in a consistently kind of good way. It sounds to me like you're saying that you did have those values, but maybe weren't aware of them, and hence didn't act accordingly. And from what you said before, you weren't, you didn't really do really well. Like, you didn't feel good. Your life wasn't that. It was good on some in some ways, but maybe you didn't feel that well. And if that's true for you,
right.
I wonder
that's right.
if that is also, if that actually was your state of mind, if that actually was telling about you not living in accordance to your core values because you weren't aware of them even.
It's absolutely spot on, my brother. It's not living. Yeah, that's exactly it. In the past, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day, where it's like, in the past, my values would change to meet my behaviors, if that makes sense. My values would change to meet my behaviors. And that's unacceptable. That really, really is unacceptable. I was allowing myself, so if I was drinking and using and getting in a fist fight, that was okay. Because that was the value of loyalty and what my understanding of respect was back then. But that today in my life is unacceptable. Peace, the Eightfold, I'll be serious with you. One of the things that's really changed my life is the Eightfold Path. Looking at right living, right speech, right the way we're earning our livelihood, the way we're showing up in the world, the way we're doing business with the world in all different areas. That to me is really, really important. Before in the past, it's like you disrespected, like my whole conception of what respect was, my whole conception of how to earn respect and earn trust. I had nothing to go off from. And I thought we did that by pretty much being a bully or being loud or being aggressive or being mean. But really, I know now in my life, we have to do that with love. We do that by showing each other love and respect. That's what respect, I've learned this through Shambhala. Respect is simply again, spec, to look. Respect is simply to look again at something. And when I'm respecting you, I don't jump to conclusions about what you're saying. I don't jump to conclusions about who you are. I look again and again and again. And then I do that with love, and I do that from my heart, right? I do that from my heart and my gut and my brain, but ultimately I do that in a way that we're building and growing, and we're seasoning the fabric of a collective consciousness, not an individual abusive consciousness. And I think that's so important. Like, if my values are strong, there's going to be a contagion to that. And other people around me are going to pick up on those. Or they're not. That's their choice. But now my values being strong and yours being strong, we attract, like attracts alike. We attract people that are similar to us, or people that can benefit from us, right? And I think that's what love is. Love is the extension of oneself for the spiritual development of oneself and another person. And that's what we do for each other. I value love. I value that big time, my friend. Any thoughts for you, my dear friend? Are you broken up?
No, I'm there. I was just listening. There was something going on your end, I think.
Oh, well, we've had some listeners, viewers. I just looked on LinkedIn. I couldn't see this on the platform that I'm on, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm just going to switch back over just for a second. I just want to let a few people know. Neil's got. I just want to let you know, thank you for being here. Master of Positive Psychology. Brother, thank you for uh, sharing space with us today. Platane Mineo, the son of, hello everyone from Zimbabwe. Thank you for being here with us. Daniel Taylor, very nice to have you and nice to see you, my dear friend. And brother Charlie Lewis, namaste back to you, my dear friend. Melissa, if you're still on, thank you for being here. It's good to see you. Excuse me. Awan Yasin, thank you for being here. It's good to see you. So wonderful. And Plante, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. It's good to see everybody, and thank you for spending time and sharing space with us on this call today. I just couldn't see you on the platform that we're on, but thank you all for being here. I just want to let everybody know very quickly, we have an event coming up on Thursday, and that event is the Awakening Exchange from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We actually have live music by a known reggae star, Mr. Tony Prophet. Tony Prophet's going to come in and sing some of his new music. Dr. Stephen Ventola from HeartMath will be there to share some of the exercises that help build self-regulation. And in addition, Dawn Cabarello from Adverse Childhood Experience Overcomers will be there to talk about the trauma and the stress many people in prison have been through, and the trauma and stress and the adverse experiences that being in prison actually causes somebody. So we hope and pray everybody can show up for that. And just remember, I'll just throw this video up real quick.
Give more love to those in prison. Support the awakening.
And you can't beat that. We have to give a little bit more love to people. We have to give a little bit more love to people on the outside. I just want to say, I love each and every one of you that are listening to you. I love you, brother. You're such a good friend. I appreciate you being a mentor to me in my life, and I appreciate you taking us all on this trip across the world with you.
Thank you, Stephen. I heard the last few bits there, but your audio fell away for a while. But yeah, I'm super happy to be here in this exact spot, and I'm super happy to share it with you. And yeah, I'm happy about our friendship.
Yeah, happy about our friendship too. And I think next week, we had talked a little bit about spiral dynamics before. Is that something that you'd like to talk about next week, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not a spiral
Is that a
dynamic
topic
expert,
you'd like to dig
but
into?
I think it's very interesting, and yeah, we could touch a bit on that.
Yeah, I think
it's very important when it comes to also it relates to values.
It does relate to values.
Yeah, spiral dynamics talked about us navigating our lives in different value systems. So it's a little bit different approach to values, but still it's about values.
Maybe you could bring forth maybe some of the work that you've done with spiral dynamics, Dr. Carr, and just allow each and every person to gain a little bit and wrap their heads around what spiral dynamics actually is. And I think as we move forward, one of the goals, I think, of this show is just to help people reprogram and program the reticular activated systems, that place in the brain that actually helps you filter out everything that's not important and actually to start focusing on what is important. And what is it that's important? Hopefully your values fall in line, right? Man, love. I gotta tell you, love is so important in this world. And I think we don't fall back and we don't trust in it enough. And I think with more love, we can make more change. And more change, we're gonna bring people back together. In this fragmented world, we need that right now. So I love you, brother. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope and pray that we get to see each other very soon. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And for everybody that tuned in, thank you all very, very much. It was such a gift to have you all here. So thank you. Any closing thoughts, Dr. P?
Yeah, just let's hope that Just want to thank you for today's podcast. It was an honor to be your guest. And regarding next Sunday, we might be, I don't know where we are then, we might be just on our way to Grenada at that very point. So, but hopefully it will time good so we can get on the call again.
Yeah, I hope so. Goodness gracious, I really hope so. And brother, I love you very much. Stay safe, stay well, and keep smiling. Thank you very much. I'm going to play this quick video for everybody, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you.
We are proud to be partnered with the Awakening Exchange, a transformative hub sparking dialogue, learning, and engagement on pivotal topics. Imagine a place where diverse voices converge, sharing insights, strategies, and experiences that empower both individuals and communities. B-roll bridging understanding gaps. B-roll fostering empathy, providing tools for personal and collective evolution. This is more than an event, it's a catalyst for positive transformation. A space where ideas ignite action, conversations fuel change, and unity fosters a resilient, compassionate world. The Awakening Exchange, shaping the future together.
I'm still trying to figure this crap